Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hello, Gertrude. I'm Gina Balarin. I'm based in Queensland, Australia, and this is my story. Now, I didn't learn what I know about leadership from a CEO or a best-selling book. I actually learned it from a man I kind of had a crush on doing computer science at university. Now, I've been fascinated by leaders and what makes the difference between really feeling compelled by a leader and simply thinking that you have to do what they ask you to do. And this all started the moment that I walked into this man's office and everything changed. When I was at university, I started doing Computer Science 101. It was an easy course. You had to learn how to use a mouse. You did a little bit of analysis, maybe some playing games. It wasn't hard. It was an easy credit. But the time came to do the hard part. I'd registered and passed Computer Science 101, but when it came to Comp Sci 102, it was a whole different ballgame. You see, I'm a trained linguist by profession. I love language and all its richness, but numbers and analysis are not necessarily my friends, as I discovered once I'd done 2 weeks of Computer Science 102. When I had to give up the course, I was absolutely devastated. Failure doesn't come easily to me. It's not comfortable. I really felt like I was absolutely useless having to give up this course that I thought I'd be able to cope with relatively easily. And I felt embarrassed. So I did what I thought students were supposed to do. I went to the lecturer to apologize and to withdraw from his course. Now, this lecturer was tall, dark, and handsome. He was the commander of the computer science department, and he had charisma. But I was really, really scared when I walked into his office until the moment that he did this one simple thing. And that changed the way I saw leaders forever. He turned away from his computer. He faced me and he gave me his full, undivided attention. And that's when I realized that true leadership is not about control. It's about connection. It's not about using your voice. It's about hearing the voice of others. Why is this relevant today? Let me explain. In our current leadership context, the values that I strive for, the values that I believe every leader should emulate, authenticity, pride, the power of making change happen in the world, has been diluted. It's easy to feel like we're playing by someone else's rules. It's easy to feel like we're a cog in the machine. And here are some stats to back that up. Today, 91% of C-suite leaders believe that they care about employees' well-being, but only 56% of employees agree with them. And while 44% of leaders believe that their staff are entirely on board with their company goals, only 14% of their employees agree. Let me let that sink in. If you, as a leader, think you're communicating clearly, you think people understand your vision, you think they feel valued, recognized, and heard, here's a newsflash. They don't. Miscommunication costs companies with 100 employees an average of $420,000 per year. That's $1.2 trillion every single year across the US economy. And that's just the US. But this is the thing that concerns me. It's not just about the dollars, it's about the people, it's the human cost. More than 51% of knowledge workers report increased stress due to what reason? Not vision, not strategy, poor communication. We are imperfect communicators, every single one of us. And there's a reason why. Because leaders think that people hear them. But here's the uncomfortable truth. We can only hear what our experience teaches us to hear, unless we do something differently. Now, I've spent my entire career studying communication. I wrote a book called The Secret Army: Leadership, Marketing, and the Power of People because I discovered that organizations succeed or fail based on whether their leaders recognize the humanity in the people around them or not. I've given presentations on 5 continents. I've worked with C-suite leaders who are brilliant, accomplished, and strategic, and almost all of them are failing the most fundamental part of listening. That is leadership. That is listening. They're failing, not because they're bad people, not because they don't care, not because they aren't good leaders themselves, but because they've been taught the wrong lesson. They've been taught that leadership is about vision and strategy and communication. But as that leader taught me in the moment that I stood enraptured in his office, communication is not what you say. Communication is what other people hear. Research shows that employees are distracted, preoccupied, or forgetful 75% of the time while they're listening to others. 75% of the time. What people hear is filtered through everything else that goes on in them. Their own experiences, their fears, their past disappointments, their current stresses, their unspoken questions. So what can we do about it? I have a 3-step framework that can help leaders identify how to get the most out of their employees and get the best communication that translates most effectively. WHW. The first W, who are you? Yes, you're a CEO. Yes, you're a leader. But who are you really? How can your employees connect with you emotionally? Secondly, how do you show up? Do you know that when there's a subtle change in your body language, your mood, or even the way you use your voice, that can send vast amounts of unspoken information to your employees? So the next time you're having a bad day, think about that before you stand up in front of your shareholders, your board, or even the team that you're talking to, because they can tell even if you think you're hiding it. And lastly, the last W, why should anyone care? A lot of leaders think that they have the answers, and they do, but they also don't know what the questions are sometimes. So here's the lesson. Your people aren't hearing you. And until you stop talking long enough to hear them, the gap between your intention and their reality will continue to cost everything that matters. Trust, engagement, innovation, and ultimately your best people. And this is the truth that I learned from that dishy dean all those years ago. And I see this validated in every single boardroom that I enter. The most powerful thing a leader can do is to make someone feel in that moment that the rest of the world has ceased to exist, because they're completely focused on truly seeing that person. Not as a resource, not as a stakeholder, not as a demographic, as a human being with something truly valuable to say. In that moment, when he turned away from his computer and gave me his undivided attention, I realized that my fears were not valid. My concerns about failure were not going to be the end of the world. My terror that I might have somehow done something absolutely wrong was unfounded. And the only way I found that answer was because he took the time to truly listen to me. So let me leave you with this thought. Be the leader who listens. Because when you truly see others, you will finally see what's possible.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for coming online and sharing your story. It really inspires me when I see someone who is focused on those people at the top and supporting and helping them see and hear the people that they're supposed to support and uplift. So, what inspired you to dedicate your life to helping leaders find their voice and communicate with confidence?
I think it's a combination of great and terrible experiences.
Mhm.
Having seen and observed this leader in action, having felt that moment of true connection and true purpose, made me also realize how easy it was not to see that. And
Yes.
over my career, I started realizing that in those moments when I felt truly connected to an organization, work was easy. Work was fun. It didn't matter the actual task that I was doing, because I knew that I was part of something bigger, something that had a purpose. And it's
Mhm.
amazing how that connection is about not what a leader does, but how they show up every single day. That's what made me decide I have to pursue this as a career. And it's not just a decision, it's an obsession. I really need to know, I need to feel part of something, and I need to help leaders understand how they can do that more effectively, so they can change people's hearts and minds, so they can inspire people to create something bigger than the sum of its parts.
Oh, I love it. Now, you've worked with major organizations like AWS and Adobe. What have you learned about great leaders, about how great leaders communicate it differently?
I think there's a sense of conviction that great leaders bring to organizations.
Mm,
And the important thing is that to be a truly great leader, you don't actually have to be at the top of the chain. The thing I've learned that was really surprising is how leaders can come up and show up from almost any part of the organization. And it's a chapter that I talk about in The Secret Army: Leadership, Marketing, and the Power of People. The hidden leader, the CEO's Nick. I don't know if you ever watched that movie called My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
yes.
In it, there was a fabulous woman who said, the man, he is the head, but the woman, she is the neck. And the neck can turn the head any way she wants. And this is the fascinating thing, is about leaders without portfolio have the potential to be influential. They
Mm,
might not have the job description, they might not even have the employees, but they have something that makes people feel better simply to be around them. And I've been fascinated throughout my career as to what it is that they do differently. How do they show up? How do they create a secret army of people who've got each other's back? So there's
mm.
that trust element, but also who want to take things forward. And that's the surprise. Just because you're a leader in title does not mean you are a leader in the hearts of your people.
That is so, so true. So, why do you think that even confident, accomplished executives sometimes struggle to express their ideas clearly?
What a beautiful question, Gertrude. You've really nailed the heart of this.
Mm,
Many reasons. There are many reasons, and then one can unpick them all. But effectively, we'll put it into two categories for now. Wonderful, accomplished leaders are either very good at articulating what they want to say, but not very good at understanding the context or framing it in a context that is meaningful. Or they're very good at putting context and details and facts and stats, but they lose the emotional side of it.
yeah.
And I think that because leaders are by necessity good at what they do, they rise up through the organization. But while we focus on teaching people to read a balance sheet or a profit and loss statement, we don't necessarily focus on teaching leaders how to communicate in a way that transforms. We may teach them how to write something or even say something. They have the experience speaking in front of people, but it doesn't mean that they can immediately make the connection between this is what I say and this is how it transforms things, and reverse engineer that to understand what they're not saying or what they could be doing differently. That means that their message will land more effectively.
Mm, that is so good. So, how can a leader turn technical or complex ideas into emotionally compelling narratives that inspire action?
Another gorgeous question. One would think you hadn't done this before, except maybe a few hundred times. How do technical leaders turn their knowledge into compelling stories? Well,
Mm,
kind of the answer is in the question there. It's about the storytelling. What technical leaders often forget is that they have a curse of knowledge. So they can know something, but they don't know that they know it. So that means that they assume everyone else has the same level of knowledge. And it means that they're often talking at a level which they expect everyone else to understand. And this creates a communication gap. But what can also happen is that they need the facts. They need the statistics. They need the compelling logical argument. And so they assume that everyone else does too.
yes.
It's
Yes.
true. Facts and stats do change hearts and minds if you are that way inclined. If
Mhm.
you need to know that because of A, I can do B, because of B, I can do C, because of C, I can do D, therefore I can follow from beginning to end, then you do need that information. But
Yeah.
humans are incredibly complex. And what we do is we actually are swayed by emotions, even though we justify our decisions rationally. And so the lesson for technical leaders in particular is how can you connect the argument that you're trying to make with a story, with an emotion? How can you show the difference that the logic you're trying to make actually makes? As they say in public speaking, show, don't tell.
Tell exactly. I love it. Absolutely love it. My most favorite line. So, what's one communication myth that you wish every CEO could unlearn?
I think it's the myth that you have to be perfect.
Mm,
Not every leader will be perfect every time. It is physically impossible.
yeah.
We are humans by our very nature. We are imperfect. So to
Mm,
stand up in any context and present, speak, perform, deliver, if your expectation is that you will deliver even 99% perfectly, you will fail because your expectations are so high and so unrealistic that even you can't achieve it. May I share a story to illustrate this point?
sure.
So I've been working with a C-level executive based out of Europe, and he was fortunate enough to be on a primetime television interview where he was talking about the value that his organization brought. Now, he's a techie, but he's also a very compelling techie. And when
Hmm.
he did the interview, he performed at 60 out of 100. Now,
Wow.
to him, because he is an extraordinary leader, he expected to perform at 80 or 90 or at 100. And he was massively disappointed with his result. But here's the irony. Every single other person in the room, including the people at the TV interview, the interviewer themselves, and his people behind the scene, were really impressed with his performance. And I'll tell you why. It's a CFO context, and CFOs are notoriously bad at communicating emotionally. So his percentage of 60%, while he was massively disappointed with it, was actually significantly better than the performance of the average person that they have on that show.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. So, in your view, what makes a story truly persuasive?
There are three elements to storytelling that the ancient Greeks identified: ethos, logos, and pathos. And those cover logic, the emotion, and the connection that we have with people. And so
Right.
persuasion is not just about being really excited about something, because in all honesty, as we know from a lot of over-the-top American speakers, it can be too much. You sometimes lose interest, you sometimes find it implausible. The balance is actually about weaving the way between logic and emotion
Mm.
and the sequencing. And it's fascinating how you can actually take a same narrative, reverse engineer it, turn it on its head, and actually help people understand why it's compelling. If you think about a lot of the TV shows that we watch, they don't give you the story, logically, sequentially.
Yeah.
Often they start at the end. You think about a soap opera. Why do you come back week after week after week to watch it if you watch soap operas? It's because of the cliffhanger. Always leave them wanting more.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, how do you balance authenticity with strategy when helping someone craft a keynote or high stakes pitch?
Balancing authenticity and strategy. That's an interesting juxtaposition I hadn't thought about before. I think a lot of this comes down to how you see yourself and how the rest of the world sees you. The
Mm.
unfortunate nature of an executive is that you can't necessarily put all of yourself on display at all points in time. And
Mm.
so the art is like a good striptease. It's not about showing everything all at once. It's about
Really
revealing a
enough.
little bit of yourself. Because we
Yes.
know that, back in the 1920s, a well-turned ankle was wow, like wow, yeah. So you as a leader don't need to give away your entire personality. You don't need to share every single element of yourself. It's about sharing the elements that are relevant in the context at the time. And that's really what great strategy is about, keeping it incredibly simple and
Yeah.
making it connect with people in a way that helps them identify with what you're saying. So if you want to share something about yourself as a leader and you happen to have, flown in your private jet to a tropical island over the weekend, if you're sharing that story with your employees who maybe went down to the park with their dog, that's not really going to resonate with them. So the
Yeah.
strategy is about how do you create an emotional connection? Well, you may have flown in a private jet to a private island, but you also went for a walk with your dog. And that's the strategic choice that you make out of storytelling, which creates that emotional connection. And it's still authentic. It's just a version of you that helps people identify with you.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, you describe yourself as someone who brings out your sparkle. How do you help clients rediscover that inner confidence?
I'm going to share a story, if I may, about Rob.
Mhm.
When they asked me to coach Rob, and he was preparing for a panel discussion, he was leading the panel discussion at the time, they said to me, he's going to be hard work. And they were wrong. And I was so delighted that they were wrong, because it turns out that Rob wasn't actually a poor communicator at all. Rob was just tired. He'd
Mm.
lost his sparkle because he didn't feel like he could do what he needed to do. It wasn't that he wasn't interested in the company. It wasn't that he was so obsessed with facts and stats that he couldn't actually remember how to tell a story. It was that Rob had forgotten that presentations and performances are not about him. They're about his audience.
Yes.
And as soon as he could start to find something to get excited about, his energy level went up. And he
Changed.
remembered why he was doing what he was doing. And that really came down to customer storytelling. Once he could connect the messages that he wanted to share with his audience with the stories of his customers and how they'd actually helped themselves and their customers with the product that he was selling, everything changed because he had a reason to exist. He had a reason to do what he was doing, and he got fired up by his own customers. And that transformed everything. And it reminded him that he did, in fact, love what he was doing. He just had forgotten.
Oh, man. Now, as a TEDx speaker yourself, how did that experience shape your approach to teaching and communication?
Oh, what a learning experience it was doing a TEDx talk. I thought I was a good speaker. I'd been on the stage already for many, many years by the time I did a TEDx talk. Oh, wow. I was not nearly as good as I thought I was. And what it did is it influenced me to realize the power of preparation, because I was a fly by the seat of your pants kind of speaker. But it also made me realize that how we see ourselves is very different to how we see others. And that has significantly influenced my coaching. A lot of speakers will be very reluctant to observe themselves when they're speaking. And it
Right.
is one of the most uncomfortable and yet powerfully transformative experiences that you can have. So the most effective working relationships I have with clients are when they're willing to share the recordings of them in those moments of performance. And even if you are remarkably self-aware when you're performing, there are habits that you automatically and unconsciously move back into that can really be detrimental to your speaking ability, your ability to communicate.
Yes.
Whether it's just a repetitive gesture, for example, that distracts people,
Mhm.
or whether it's use of ums and ers that prevent people from creating a seamless and streamlined message, taking that time to go back and feel the cringe factor and look at yourself and go, I don't have to fix all of this at once, but what one thing can I change for the
Wow.
next time that I do this? How can I do this not 100% better, but maybe 5% better or 10% better? And those
Mm,
cumulative impacts make a significant difference over time.
that is so true. That is so true. So, my last two questions for you are a bit of a thought experiment. In the first one, I will teleport you back to the younger you. If we could go back to your younger self and you could give yourself three nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those three nuggets of wisdom be?
I would teach my younger self that it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, it's good to make mistakes because the more mistakes you make, the more you learn. And failure is not something to be feared, it's something to be embraced. I would also teach myself that it's not all about you. And this is a hard pill to swallow. It's actually about the people who you're talking to. Yes, you can talk to them, but really, are they hearing you? If most people are only hearing 25% of what you're saying and 75% of the rest of the time they're distracted or thinking about something that happened previously, it can't be about you. It's always going to be about them. I'd also like to teach my younger self that things will go wrong, and that is an important part of learning and growing. And the only way you're going to get better is by going through the things that go wrong. Churchill said, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. I wish I'd learned that lesson sooner.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Last question. Is there anything I should have asked you and I didn't?
I think maybe you should have asked me, what makes people come alive when they speak, and how can you tell?
Mhm.
And the
And what,
answer is, sorry, go ahead, Gertrude. Ask me.
and what would the answer be?
The answer is that what makes people come alive is an interest. And the irony is that you don't have to be interested in everything. You don't even have to be interested in every single element of what you're presenting or performing. What you do have to find is something, some truth that you believe in, some truth that you can hold on to, some truth that you can sell effectively. And in that moment when you are presenting or performing, whether it is literally, to having a one-to-one with a colleague or a team member or an employee, or standing up in front of a board, people can tell. And if you don't believe what you're saying, I would say really be as honest as you possibly can be about what you're saying. Unfortunately, leaders can't always tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah.
But hang on to something that allows you to share a part of yourself, an element of vulnerability, an element of surprise, fear, excitement. Identify an emotion, identify that one key thing that you want your people to hold on to. And as we say in public speaking a lot, repeat, repeat, repeat. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them, and tell them in the middle.
I love it. Thank you so much, Gina, for coming online and sharing your story with us today. Absolutely inspiring.
It's been a pleasure to speak with you, Gertrude. You yourself are an inspiration. I hope the people watching this will be inspired too.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thanks again, Gina.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.